Welcome to the podcast series on technology and innovation in coaching, brought to you by the Association for Coaching, the world's leading independent body. I am Claudia Day, coach and entrepreneur and founder of eHuddle. In this AC podcast series, we are privileged to talk to coaches, academics, and entrepreneurs who will be sharing with us some of their research, findings, and experiences related to technologies that could help us democratize coaching, elevate the coaching practice, lower cost, or save time, among other benefits. This is a very broad topic, going from how technologies can support a coach or carry out a coaching process. We hope this series brings technology closer to coaches. Enjoy listening. Welcome to Alex Haitoglou. It is great to have you with us. Alex is an entrepreneur currently working on his latest creation, Ovida. Alex, I will let you tell us more about yourself and how you got involved in the world of coaching.
Thanks, Claudia, and really great to be with you today and have a chance to talk about, I think, coaching, AI, machine learning, and also a project. But I'll first start with a bit of background and how I personally got into the world of coaching. So I come from Greece originally. So I moved out of Greece about 21 years ago and lived mostly in the UK and other places. But when I was in Greece, as a teenager, I was what you would call a very rebellious and potentially a bit lost teenager. And when I was around, I think 18 and a half, 19 years old, I was really trying different things, trying to understand like, what do I want to do in general. Like, at the time, I didn't know, do I want to study, do I want to work, do I want to do anything? And I was very lucky at the time to meet someone who was doing non-directive coaching. And that was my first experience of actually speaking to someone who was not there to just tell me, do this, do that, but actually ask me questions. And it was an amazing experience. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say it changed my life, because I went from literally not knowing what I want to do and being very lost to deciding I want to travel the world, I want to study. It was one of the reasons why I came to the UK. So, literally create a lot of shifts, both in practical goals, but also deeper in, belief systems and how I see myself. So that was my first engagement with coaching. Absolutely loved it. I then read a lot about it when I did some training. And when I started my corporate career, I worked for Procter & Gamble for quite a few years. Although I was doing a business role, I got engaged with the coaching practice. So P&G was doing a global grow coaching course. I ended up leading that course globally. We were training hundreds of train around the world and literally thousands of employees a year on that. So in many ways, coaching stayed with me throughout my business career. It's always been a passion. I'm feeling deeply grateful to the person that I met at the time, and also the whole coaching, if you want, as an idea in the industry, because I think its impact is amazing in personal life, in business, and in many ways, this has inspired what I'm doing currently with Ovida. So that's my sort of intro, if you want, into coaching, and maybe a little bit more about what we're doing now and what Ovida is.
Yeah, it would be great if you can share with us a bit about your journey as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I worked in the corporate world for many years. So I was at Procter & Gamble. Then I went. I was at Walgreens Boots Alliance. It from Boots in the UK and Walgreens in the US. So I've had many years in the corporate world. I've always been fascinated and very curious to see what does it mean to start a business and what does it mean to have your own ideas. And through also quite a lot of coaching, it was the thing around 2016, 17, when someone asked me a really good question, which is, what do you choose to spend your heartbeats on? And it's a really important question, right? It's something that I think I knew it, but I wasn't consciously thinking about that much. And it was a moment where I said, okay, is it really my heart into, being in the corporate world and carrying on doing that? Or at least where I was at the time, definitely it wasn't, right? So I wanted to do something that feels a lot more aligned. So I've been, I think, very, very blessed over the last 2-3 years. I've been focusing on startups. I cared a lot about wellness and communication. These are the two things that I care about. Coaching falls happily in between the two. So there's both wellness and communication in it. So I decided, I want to do stuff in my life that I really care about. And I was in actually a health technology startup first that ended up being bought and integrated with Holland and Barrett in the UK. So that was something that I was doing up until about a year plus ago. But for coaching specifically, we were in a conference in Silicon Valley with my current partner and co-founder of Ovida. And it was called the Singularity University. I don't know if you've heard about them. They're like a think tank. They're doing everything AI technology. It's a tech fest, right? So we went there, about 50, 70 people in a room, CEOs, executives, entrepreneurs. And we had a full week of just, our minds being blown by what is already happening, right, in the world, whether it is editing genes or 3D printing or AI and machine learning. And then it was about the last day, I think, when a keynote speaker came in and said, look, you guys have been watching all these amazing advancements. Are these generally going to help us become more human? Are they going to help us connect more? I don't think so. It's probably not going to make us kinder. It will make us more powerful, more selfish. And it was quite a climb down from the, all the excitement of what's happening, because we went for lunch that day with Brian, and we sat down and thought, okay, we probably agree the way it's going that it will be like that, but does it really have to be like that? Is there a way to use specifically those new tools, so AI and machine learning, to help humans communicate better, to help connect more? Is there a way to do that and also build a business behind this, right? So there's a lot of talk currently about net zero. I don't think net zero is the solution. It's net positive is the solution, right? You need to go to a place where businesses actually create business models that when they work, they also make something better, make the world better, make the environment better. So that was the core, if you want, the idea of how can we help human communication using AI and machine learning. And the reason why, we sort of very fast concluded that coaching is a great place is because coaching is a very unique human engagement, right? First of all, any good coaching discussion will presuppose trust. That means that people connect, they share feelings, they share a huge range of human emotions. That is really interesting. So if we want to train algorithms to understand more how humans communicate, that is a really, really interesting field to do that. Additionally, coaching is an area where for the coach, and I think what we realized by doing Ovida also for the coach, but especially for the coach, there's not enough learning data, there's not enough science to help coaches advance. What I mean by that, if you look at the last, let's say, 20 years in the world of sport or many other fields, there's been like a revolution in data. Like if I'm playing tennis professionally, there's no way that I'm not doing video reviews and there's no data about where I'm hitting it harder or softer, or it's the same for practically all sports at the professional level. And for coaching, when it comes down anything from coaching training all the way down to actually how do I keep on developing myself as a coach, there hasn't really been much change since the inner game of tennis, right? In the 70s, it's pretty much the same process. So we're thinking, hey, this is a fascinating space for human interaction, the way coaching works, right? It's a full range of human emotions. People show true trust between them to get into this engagement. B, we could help coaches understand more about themselves, get some data and actions behind what they're doing, and ultimately use AI not to what I think most of the world is currently doing, using AI to either replace humans or to standardize, right? We definitely don't want to replace humans in coaching. We think actually, if anything, there's areas like coaching, maybe psychology, there's some other areas where the human connection is super, super important. And actually having a human in front of you is super important. But also, it's not something you can standardize, right? Because it's not like a easy process to say, hey, here's a standard coaching session. There isn't, right? It depends on the coachee. So could we use, that was the core idea, AI and machine learning into helping coaches grow by understanding more about themselves? And through the work we've done now with over about 60 plus people that have seen the platform and have also, engaged with us over the last few months, we realized that also that works quite well for coachees. So it's quite interesting for people to also see themselves as a client, as a coachee, and understand what's happening and get some insights from data and perspective. So that's pretty much the background of how Ovida came to life. We wanted to find a way to help humans communicate better. We want to focus on how to help coaches grow and coaches achieve more, grow and achieve more. That's coming from our joint passion as founders about coaching. And we're now, what we've realized is that there are ways of approaching AI and machine learning in a way that is about enhancing humans. It's about giving an extra tool rather than trying to replace them altogether, right? So that's a I think, quite a different angle to a lot of people that we know are doing, work on sales and AI and, various other customer services and emotions and all these things.
Yeah, no. So can you explain to listeners exactly how this information or this data could help the coaches or the clients?
Fundamentally, what we did, we started with something that's a very well-established sort of coaching practice, right? Which is anyone who's done coaching training or qualification would have done at least some form of a triad, right? So, three people sitting around, one is acting as the feedback person or the supervisor, whatever that is. One's the coachee, one's the coach. Would have been through a process of maybe video recording and reviewing the video, right? And actually, that's what we used to do also at P&G for Grow Coaching. We would get people to just record some of the actual coaching sessions and be able to then play it back. At the time, it was still with a VCR, fast forward, backwards, took ages. I don't think anyone who has been through this process has a doubt that feedback and understanding of what you're doing at specific moments is the most important element of growth. And that's at its core what coaching is, right? It's about helping someone understand themselves. What are the possibilities, what they can do, and be able to grow through that. So our first key application was, is it possible to record a session in a very secure way, always with a big focus on privacy, right? We're very conscious about how important this is, and always consent by all parties involved, right? So could we record a session and then with algorithms identify the key moments of the session? And what is a key moment really? At this stage, we're not labeling yet. We're not saying good or bad. But what we know is that we're able to pick up, for example, changes in speech patterns or words specifically, or maybe some facial expressions. And what we already know is that when you pick up differences, things that happen that are different, so someone speaks in a specific pace and then it changes, or they don't do a certain facial expression, they do it once in a whole call. These tend to be high emotional moments. These tend to be moments where something's happening. The coachee usually is exploring something or expressing something new or doing something. So what we're doing as a first stage is we're able to pick up from a discussion, from a coaching discussion, some key moments that will be of very high interest to the coach. So the coach can actually look and see how are they asking the question, how did the coach reply, but without having to review an hour worth of video, because no one will, right? The process works, you finish your session on the platform. Currently, we already have a beta version that is out now, and we're able within pretty much an hour to provide a full video, the transcript, searchable transcript, but also here's a bunch of key moments from this discussion to the coach to review and get perspective. So it can take them 5-10 minutes to just have a look at some key elements of the session. At the same time, of course, we are able to pick up a lot of data that we are working with coaches now, what is useful. For example, a very simple measure is talk time, right? So talk time means how much the coach talks versus the coachee. We know that this changes the more experienced the coaches. We've had some super experienced coaches on the platform. They tend to talk, maybe 20, maybe 25, maybe 15% of the time, but it's definitely significantly lower than trainee coaches that tend to talk a lot more, right? And that's a very simple measure. And by the way, there's no one rule fits all here, right? It's definitely something that we're finding out. Coachings are very unique engagements, but there are broad things that we can pick up. So we can pick up things around, for example, if someone is training open questions, right? We can pick up how many open questions someone's asking, or how well a coach is exhibiting the skill of mirroring, whether it's verbal or whether it is through expressions or the way they ask questions, right? So there's a lot of data that we're picking up currently. We're working with quite a few coaches actually currently getting feedback on what is useful, because we can generate. The one thing we don't want to do, we don't want to generate 150 dashboards, right? That's definitely not going to be a useful application. So we're in the process of saying, hey, we have something that works, that can pick up key moments from a session. So if we were to ask a coach and a coachee post a session, what do you think were the key elements of this? We will, 60 to 80% of the time, we'll probably pick up at least the ones that they're mentioning. Sometimes we pick up things that were not that obvious as well, which is interesting. We'll be able to play this back to the coach so they can get a perspective on those. They can share those moments with the coachee. One of the things we realize that's fascinating is there's something really powerful if I'm the client, for me to have a look at a 1-minute video where I've just saying, a commitment made that I made in my last coaching engagement, or an awareness point, and maybe something that we can review together with a coach, because now we are able to look at just our relationship. And as I'm sure most coaches would agree, the relationship part is an absolutely fundamental part of coaching, right? I think some would say it's all, it's pretty much the whole coaching. Some will say not all, but I think everyone agrees to that. So what we realized that this process of reviewing key moments and for the coach as well as the coachee, it really helps build the relationship. It helps the coachee become more aware about what's happening. So it's not just for the coach. And it also opened up a really interesting angle for coach training and supervision, because again, with consent, you could have snippets of a session going to a supervisor who can provide feedback now on actual real data and video and what's going on, not what the coach may remember of what the coachee said in a previous session, which is currently some of the supervision is based on that. So far, it's still early stages, so we're still experimenting with building our algorithms literally on a daily basis. But we feel there's a lot of potential here, and we've had a lot of super positive feedback for coach training. So people that enter coaching, how can we accelerate and create better quality coach training, as well as even experienced coaches who would like to keep on getting feedback. It's a very lonely place once you're an experienced coach, right? You have your sessions, you have your clients, but how many times do you actually get the chance to see what's happening from a distance or from a position? I want to say meta position, but Facebook now has called themselves meta. I really hope they don't change the meaning of the word meta, but a meta position of your coaching, seeing yourself as the coachee sees yours, the session goes. It's a super powerful tool to keep on growing. And that's something that you couldn't do before. Like a 1 hour video review of a session without having a tool that does this can easily take up to 2 hours. And in psychology, we've had some engagement with psychologists as well. What you need to do, a specific type of supervision could take up to 2-3 hours to review something and send snippets to your supervisor. So there's definitely some, interesting applications that make something accessible that today is very, very difficult to do.
Do you think it would be useful for me to share my experience?
Absolutely, yes, yes, and thank you. You were, I think, number 16 or 17 that tried this. So, absolutely, yes.
So basically, for the listeners who haven't tried it, I think it's useful if I share a little bit of. We did a coaching session where I was a coach. At some point in the coaching relationship, I challenged, and I felt how there was a sudden change in the environment, and I very quickly went then to a time to think approach to try and make the situation or make the session flow. And then at the end, he basically reached to the same type of conclusion that I had challenged before, but with a different approach. And basically, at the end, when we were reviewing the session, there was the focus on when was the aha moment for the client. But as a coach, I was like, no, I want to go to that moment where I suddenly felt that break. And basically, it was interesting to see it from a coach's side and see exactly how much had I actually challenged. And because I think he went into tangents, answering something different. And so I repeated the question and then again into tangent and then repeated the question. And so, I mean, I'm still looking forward to basically taking that to a supervisor and saying, here's this, what could I have done different? And I think in the end, the approach of going into more of a time to think was the right one. But basically, it's that side of having that. If not, I wouldn't have had that to be able to verify, yes, at this point, there was definitely some kind of breakage. And what was it that brought it? And how, I guess, in the future, then, there's this thing of, well, this may be one way of getting out of one of those situations. So from an experience side, definitely I see the value in taking it to supervision. And so I thought I would share that with the listeners. And I guess this brings me to another question, which is, at the moment, it's retrospective. Are you guys looking to do it in real time?
Look, it's a question that we've pondered a lot ourselves. There are some tools that are doing things like that for sales, right? So there's already some really, I would say, decent tools. We've tried all of them, right? We literally anything we've seen in this space, even if it's mildly similar, we've tried. So I think there is something about coaching that is quite different because of the level of deep listening that the coach needs to display, that we're very conscious that we should not disrupt. What I mean by that is there's already tools that, you could be on a sales call as a salesperson looking at a screen. the screen will tell you live, a sentiment read of how the person on the other end of the line is feeling, for example, right? And that could be an interesting sales tool. That could be a useful sales tool. But that's because sales is a very specific type of context. What we are definitely conscious about is not trying to disturb or disrupt the relationship between the coach and the coachee. One fascinating thing that happened, because we had to do a lot of trials, so we had a lot of people. I also got coaching from quite a few different coaches and other people from the Ovida team, as well as the clients of those coaches. And what was really fascinating for me was to realize the value that this just listening has from also different coaches, like this focus on me as a coachee. And I'm not sure how to do this if we're bombarding the coach with at the same time, hey, here look what's happening. So it's a very interesting question. I do think that we're definitely looking and exploring at something like that, because there could be some value there. But ultimately, there's something about when a coach is performing, in a similar to sports, when a coach is in the moment, right? You want them to stay in the moment. You want them to be in the flow, not have bar charts running behind. If someone is doing a sales call, frankly, it's much less of a deep engagement. So that is probably a lot more helpful. There is definitely something around that. Currently, we're not there. We believe that this is a great tool to review the session. So it really don't need to not take anymore. You also get the transcripts, and you can search for words on transcripts, so you can go to specific words if you want to. But as a coach, you can review the session in literally 5-10 minutes, or even before the previous session, remember it. We'll definitely explore the possibility. Is there something that you can do also live? Maybe if there's a really big thing happening, maybe it's worth having something that alerts you on the spot. But it's a really good question.
Yeah, well, nice. I look forward to hearing how it goes, and I guess the beta testing on that side as well will tell us a lot about, is it better for a session to have that live, or is it better to have it retrospectively? And research will talk by itself.
I mean, there's human communication is beautifully complex and amazing, right? So it's absolutely brilliant. There has been a big shift, I think, over the last 2 years, and mostly because of COVID, where people realize that, it is in the world of coaching, it's absolutely possible to have great coaching discussions on video, right? Ultimately, video, it is zeros and ones, right? That's what it is. I mean, it's definition. Now we're talking, but we're not talking face to face. We're talking within video, zeros and ones. And we all know people that can connect amazingly well on video, and people that can't, and can learn how to connect better. So the key thing is that somewhere around the zeros and ones that are present in our video stream right now, there is a pattern there. There are patterns that convey whether we're connecting well or whether we're not connecting well, right? A simple one that you could recognize is, I'm nodding my head right now and you're nodding your head as well, right? So that could be a sign that you can start picking up and say, hey, look, if these people after this discussion said that, yeah, we're connecting well, and they've been nodding their heads quite a lot, that, which we know as humans already, right? That's something that you could effectively start picking up as a machine. Now, the beauty of having a machine doing that is that it can pick up a lot more subtle things, because you don't have, as a human being, you can focus consciously between 5 to 7 things. If you're an amazing communicator, you can, unconsciously pay attention to a bunch of different things when you're connecting with someone, including language. But ultimately, a machine records everything that's on this video stream right now. So the idea is that we can get better and better picking those things and being able to also show the coach and the coachee, giving them real perspective on themselves, a perspective that they don't necessarily have, because it's so hard to have, right? Another thing that we love about coaching discussions, they're so interesting. They're deep. We've had people crying and laughing and expressing anger, or telling a story about the world when they were angry, right? So these are really complex things for a machine to try to understand. So we're still at a very early stage, but what we can already do is we can see where are some spikes in the patterns, where things change, right? Where there has been excessive nodding, for example, right? The more we have data and the more we have coaches that are engaging with us, the more we can help more these coaches and other coaches as well. And I think that has happened. We've had now a few people that have had multiple sessions with different clients on the platform. And it's really interesting, because then they start picking up patterns that they're doing themselves, right? Some fantastic patterns. Say, I've done this here. I don't even realize I was doing it. Or the opposite as well. Like, oh my God, I've been saying this word 3-4 times. And clearly, now that I see the coachee is not connecting as well with that, what is it there? So it's something that will keep on growing. It's the more data you have on this one, the more useful it can be for the coach themselves, and their clients, but also for the algorithm to be able to help more coaches.
That sounds amazing. That reminds me of a quote from David Clutterbuck, where he says that the value of AI, of artificial intelligence, might come not so much in making machines that act like humans, but stopping humans acting like machines. And there, what you're describing is basically a coach who's doing something very repetitively, and then basically your Ovida picking up on this and then reflecting on this side. So I guess this can bring us more into how you see basically how this could help in development supervision and other things that make us more humans.
Yeah, I think for me that the making us more human. I think this. By the way, I love this. I love this quote. I really love this quote. I think it's super important to recognize that we need to find. It's not just we need to find a way to use all this technology to help us be more human. Like we just need to. If we don't, then the prediction that the keynote speaker made a few years ago will be true, right? We'll just be more power hungry and selfish, right? So we need to find a way that this technology actually help us be more human. And specifically with the applications of it right now, and this is what sometimes scares me a bit when I'm thinking, look, if I wanted to be able to help others, what patterns of communication am I picking up? If I'm picking them up from sales, right? That can be very useful in a sales context, but it is almost never useful in a personal context, right? If you're talking to a close friend or family or someone at work that you're having a deeper relationship with. To give you an example, one of a very, very good company that's doing some really great work on sales, right? They had a sales call with a machine learning algorithm that gives direct feedback, right? And you can hear the sales call, an angry customer comes in and says, you did this X, Y, Z. Customer service / salesperson say, look, I hear you. I understand the concern. Here are 2-3 options. I'm sure at least one of them will help you achieve what you want, and there's this discussion. And at the end, the customer sounds happy and that closes the call. Now that is generally a good sales call because when we are in a sales context, we expect that, right? That's what you would expect. Try doing that with someone at work who is, maybe angry at you and tell them, I hear you. I'll have 3 options. I'll explain to you. Try to do it with a partner, right? That's a fascinating challenge, right? So the key thing is that we want people to actually be more creative, and we want coaches to be more creative. We don't want them to actually become robotic. We don't want to say that this is the way to do it. We want to instigate the creativity part, which is at the core, it's a coaching principle, right? It's like what you're trying to do as a coach. But the idea here is there is no absolute this is the best or whatever else. There is here's what's happening. Here's some interesting things, right? What might you do next? What could you change? And for us, this level of creativity, which great coaches and very experienced coaches have in a session, right? Then and we can see that because we've had some really broad range of experienced people, and you can see that very experienced coaches are, for example, very much able to challenge quite abruptly, you might call it, if you don't know whatever else, but without losing trust at any given moment, right? It takes quite a lot of experience to be able to do that. How can you actually challenge the person? And I'm not talking about only people doing challenging coaching per se. I'm talking about challenging in all sort of coaching schools and methods, right? But being able to help someone reframe what's happening, and if you would look at it just that moment, you say, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" But actually, they're displaying something different. They're employing a different creative streak that helps the client advance and go somewhere else. So our core, if you want, premise here is how can we instigate more creativity? So we don't want to put labels. We want to create a space where there are some guidelines, right? I think everyone would agree that probably we've had some people, at 48% talk time as a coach in sessions. Probably that's not coaching, right? That's a chat, right? So I think we can all agree that it's probably better to talk less when you're a coach. But apart from some broader guidelines, I think at the end of the day, it's about how do I, as a coach, understand more about how I'm coming across, how I can generate new behaviors, and then also how can I help my client do that, and how can I help our relationship do that.
Yeah, and for coaches who are scared of basically AI replacing us, that's one of the things that AI cannot do at the moment. It cannot.
Absolutely. Oh, we get this the whole time. Like, seriously, I think most of the people that I've started speaking to this without explaining it in the beginning, they go down the path of, creating an AI coach, right? Or something like that. So here's the thing, right? There's definitely things that AI can help with. Like, for example, if what you want is just a series of questions that help you reflect, right? If that's the only thing you want, Will there be a coaching? There already are. I mean, there's already CBT done completely by AI. There's already apps in the market that are doing cognitive behavioral therapy just through that. So can there be value in that? Yes, it can be value. And I think another reason why there can be value in that, because this can democratize, a lot of all of these tools, right? So there is something there for sure, and it's useful. It can help a child in Sudan get access to some principles, at least, of coaching or cognitive behavioral therapy that is automatic. But ultimately, what's really interesting, and we're really seeing that it's when you're really going into a proper coaching exploration, it's not just a behavioral, it's about beliefs and values and all these things. It's the relationship with the coach and the experience and creativity of the coach in the way they help that person unfold and open up themselves that makes all the difference. And that, I mean, we're very, very, very far from being able to replicate that in any meaningful way. Now, who knows if this will happen or not in the future, but there's nothing even close to that. So I think there's a really big distinction. There is things that are much more, a bunch of questions that could help you answer and can help your mind thinking differently. But then there is the value of having another human being in a trusted relationship, creatively engaging with you to help you discover something that we're very far from replicating with a machine.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of this podcast on how machine learning can help coaches. Join us for part 2 next week. So thank you for listening to another episode by the Association for Coaching. I have been Claudia Day. Our purpose is to help coaches in the process of navigating the new technologies that are arising in this field. If you would like to find out more, please follow us on LinkedIn or explore our webpage at theassociationforcoaching.com. There you can keep up to date with our latest episodes and conversations, as well as our digital learning calendar.